vein structure branching algorithm of underground water predicts the angle at which you will then install your labyrinth. Here's the center point. Here's the turn points. So you'll orient these turns in the labyrinth properly with respect to the direction of the underground water's branching algorithm. So the center of the labyrinth is to reinforce the underground water's dimpling, the Jedi, the raised Jed, the Shem on. And that branching algorithm then becomes a map for how you're going to make your labyrinth. The labyrinth at one level is the flame in go. So if I take the dance of the flamenco, the Greek key, and revolve it, I go from one-dimensional to two-dimensional to three-dimensional, turning inside out, ness, making the flame go in, right? So that's the dance. It was called the Greek key, but it was the map to passion, the steering the magnetism inside out. So that ability to teach turning inside outness creates center of gravity. So when you ride your horse in a labyrinth, you electrically create a center of gravity such that you and the horse can move as one. And that ability to do that is in proportion for your electrical capacitive center of gravity to be in phase, totally phase-locked capacity with that of the horse. So that when you think and move, the horse and you move as one electrical structure. To learn that process of embedding one inside the other, the labyrinth is used in horses. But it's a metaphor for what we do with ourselves to be able to move all of our being bodies, as it were, in that nested array. So these are some examples of labyrinths from Taffy Lancer and Kay Torres and other famous labyrinth people, Missy Reynolds in North Carolina. Notice the choice of stone will usually be paramagnetic material. What is paramagnetic? Paramagnetic is stone that bends magnetism coherently like a lens. Diamagnetic, examples of paramagnetic would be limestone or quartz-based materials. Diamagnetic materials, on the other hand, is that which would break up or fractionate the path of magnetic lines. Examples of diamagnetic stone would be sandstone. You want to use paramagnetic stone for your labyrinth. You do not want to use diamagnetic stone. If you want more physics on that, I recommend Phil Callahan's books on paramagnetic versus diamagnetic. Essentially, the activity of Feng Shui, geomancy, bobiology is the activity of using paramagnetic structures on the land as if they were a lens for magnetism to fabricate pretty pictures out of magnetic lines. Yeah? So steering charge is what these devices do. So what does this result in? This results in the dimpling process being learned kinesthetically. These are some examples of labyrinths. This is the one in Colorado at the Star House here. This is the one in Taffy Lancer's backyard in Cave Creek, Arizona. This is the Labyrinth Walk. The Labyrinth Walk is profoundly therapeutic for dyslexia as well. This is Annette Reynolds' work. This shows how a labyrinth is built, yeah? So to start the labyrinth, very important. So this is the classroom 101 on labyrinth starting, okay? You find the place where the magnetic lines cross, where there is likely to be a dimple of underground magnetism. At that place, you get up off your cross and follow me. So you put a cross, yeah? And once you've done that, you put this little L in your cross, like this. So this is the process of starting a labyrinth. Once you've decided how to orient your labyrinth, you got these L's in here, right? And this is going to be the mouth of the labyrinth down here. Okay? So now I'm going to put 4 dots in there like this. So that's how you begin your labyrinth. You've decided the width of the labyrinth is at least wide enough to be able to walk it. But you need to extrapolate that about 7 times this is what you're going to need out here. You can judge the size of your labyrinth by multiplying by 7 the size of the aisleway there. So ultimately, the scale of the labyrinth doesn't matter as long as the ratio is correct. And the ratio is such that it can steer the magnetism of the land. Yeah? So you set your labyrinth position by the crossing of the ley lines, the orientation by the direction of the wind, and the labyrinth size by enough space to walk it, but enough space so that it fits in with whatever area. Because when you're done, it's going to be a giant vortex sucking in magnetism. So you make those decisions. And then I'm going to do the inside-out trick. Okay? I'm doing this with a different color pen so you'll be able to see the origin. I start here at the top center, and I'm simply going to go over and under. Okay? So here I go. Over, under. Okay, so I'm never lifting the pen farther than to go across the aisle. Okay? I lift my pen, go across the aisle. You see, there's nothing that even requires any skill here once you lay out the central template. Okay? So I'm going over and under and over and under. I don't have anything to remember, anything new to invent once I lay out the first template. Okay? Now I'm forming the mouth of my labyrinth. And actually the goal is not so much that the walkway paths be perfectly even, so much as they actually follow the magnetism of the land. So if there's some strong magnetic feature in the land, it may well deflect the angle at which some of these cross. Yeah? And so now here, I have a turn point here. Let's use a different color pen. I only have 2 colors here. But the turn points are critical points. This one here. See these turn points? So when I laid out my labyrinth, I was very conscious of the angle of those turn points with respect to the branching algorithm of the underground water. If the branching algorithm of the underground water has been properly aligned, the labyrinth will create more magnetic suction to the still point. The nature of labyrinth building is such that building a labyrinth is like having a love relationship with a landscape elemental, okay? The landscape elemental becomes very accustomed to your emotional work with it. And it's rather bad form to make a labyrinth and play with the gnomes and elementals and then leave them alone. They don't like that, okay? So if you build a labyrinth, it's like building a relationship. It's something that you should visualize, imagine as a long-term commitment. Because what you're doing is you're creating a place on the land where the magnetic lines are going to implode and dimple and send biological magnetism through the speed of light. So you're creating an erogenous zone for the planet, quite literally. So the planet is not going to like it if you start a lovely, nice, touchy-feely relationship and then you disappear one day and never come back. The most elemental labyrinth is the one we've been looking at, the 7-circuit labyrinth, as it's called, which is the Cretan Minoan. But here we have some pictures of the 13-circuit Chartres labyrinth, okay? And indeed, here you have a 13-turn geometry, which is the Chartres labyrinth and the walking path, yeah? Now, in the more complex labyrinth, you have a longer spin path to the 0 point. And the 13-turn labyrinth is used for different kinds of psychological functions. I think in this case, the 13 may be more than numerologically related to the fact that the 13th sphere nests inside the 12 in the cube octa symmetry. So it represents the Christed one, or the completing process, the 13th sphere. So in effect, when you get inside the center of a 13-circuit turn labyrinth, you have less implosion in the sense of being pushed through, and you have more of the crystallization, which is a centering force. The